She was just a sign language interpreter trying to help a stranded elderly woman at the airport. What she didn't know, the grateful woman was a mafia boss's mother. And when he bowed to her in front of everyone, she became the one person in his dark world he'd let see his heart. The overhead announcement crackled through Terminal C, but Camille Torres barely heard it. After 16 hours at a medical conference in Boston, sitting through presentations on pediatric trauma care and the latest advances in emergency sign language interpretation, all she wanted was to collapse into her own bed back in Chicago. She shifted her worn leather backpack higher on her shoulder and joined the river of exhausted travelers flowing toward baggage claim. That's when she heard it. Not words. Not exactly. But the sharp, desperate sound of someone in distress, a kind of frustrated whimper that cut through the airport noise like a knife. Camille's trained instincts kicked in before her tired brain could protest. She turned toward the sound. Near Gate C7, a crowd had formed a loose semicircle around the information desk. At its center stood an elderly woman, maybe 70, with silver hair pulled into a neat bun. Her hands were moving frantically, signing, Camille realized immediately, while tears of frustration streaked down her weathered cheeks. 3 airport employees stood frozen, their faces twisted in that particular expression of helpless discomfort that came from wanting to help but having no idea how. "Ma'am, please, just calm down," one of them was saying, speaking slowly and loudly, as if volume could somehow bridge the communication gap. The elderly woman's hands moved faster, more desperately. Her signs were clear, precise, Italian Sign Language with some ASL mixed in, and Camille understood every gesture. "My phone is dead. I don't know where my son is. He was supposed to meet me. Please, I just need to find my son. Please help me." But the airport staff just stared, bewildered and increasingly anxious. A few travelers had stopped to gawk. Someone was filming on their phone. No one was actually helping. Camille didn't think. She just moved. "Excuse me," she said, gently pushing through the small crowd. She stepped directly into the woman's line of sight and began signing. "Hello. My name is Camille. I can understand you. You're safe. Tell me what you need." The transformation was instant. The elderly woman's hands, which had been jerking in panicked, scattered motions, suddenly stilled. Her red-rimmed eyes locked onto Camille's face, and the relief that washed over her features was so profound that Camille felt her own throat tighten. "Oh, thank God," the woman signed, her hands trembling now with emotion rather than panic. "Thank God. I thought no one could hear me." "I can hear you," Camille signed back with a warm smile. "I hear you perfectly. Now let's figure this out together. What's your name?"
Rosa.
"Rosa Marchesi." The woman's hands were steadier now. "My phone died on the plane. My son was supposed to meet me at arrivals, but I got confused. The terminal changed, and I couldn't ask anyone which way to go. I've been trying to find help for 20 minutes. Camille felt a flash of anger at the airport staff. 20 minutes, and not one of them had thought to grab paper and pen or call for an interpreter. But she pushed it aside. There'd be time for that conversation later.
"Okay, Rosa.
First, let's charge your phone. Then we'll call your son. Does that sound good?" Rosa nodded vigorously, her whole body sagging with relief. She reached out and grasped Camille's hands tightly, squeezing them with surprising strength. "Thank you," she signed when she released them. "Thank you. You're an angel." "Just someone who knows how to listen," Camille signed back, then turned to the bewildered staff. "She needs to charge her phone. Do you have a charging station nearby?" The grateful employees practically tripped over themselves, pointing the way. As Camille and Rosa walked together toward the charging kiosk, the elderly woman kept glancing at her with an expression that was part gratitude, part wonder. Her hands moved in small, conversational gestures now, the kind of casual signing that came from a lifetime of using the language. "You sign beautifully," Rosa commented. "Like a native. Are you deaf?" "No, hearing. But I work as a sign language interpreter at Chicago Memorial Hospital." It's my job to make sure people can be heard. And you do it very well. Rosa's expression turned curious. Are you married? Children? Camille smiled at the grandmotherly question.
A daughter. Luna.
She's 8. No husband, just us. Something shifted in Rosa's expression, a kind of recognition, a softness. A strong woman, then. Raising a child alone. That takes courage. Takes coffee and determination. Camille signed with a self-deprecating grin. But we manage. They reached the charging station, and Camille helped Rosa plug in her phone. While they waited for it to power up enough to use, Rosa pulled out a worn leather wallet and showed Camille a photograph, a much younger version of herself holding a serious-looking baby boy. My son, Rosa signed with obvious pride. Matteo. He was such a beautiful baby. Still beautiful, though he'd hate me for saying so. He'll be worried about you, Camille signed.
Yes.
He worries too much. About everything. Rosa's expression clouded slightly. He's very protective. Before Camille could ask what that meant, the phone chimed to life. Rosa's face brightened, and she immediately pulled up her contacts. But when she went to dial, her hands hesitated. She looked at Camille with sudden uncertainty. Could you? I can't hear if he answers. Could you make the call? Tell him where I am. Of course. Camille took the phone and dialed the contact labeled Matteo, cell. It rang twice, then a male voice answered, smooth, controlled, but with an undercurrent of tightly leashed tension.
Mama?
Where are you? I've been. Hi, this isn't Rosa, Camille interrupted gently. My name is Camille Torres. I'm here at the airport with your mother. She's fine, but her phone died and she couldn't find you. We're at Terminal C, near Gate 7-inch. There was a beat of silence. When the voice came back, it was different. Colder, sharper, carrying an edge that made Camille's instincts prickle.
Who are you?
Why do you have my mother's phone? I'm a sign language interpreter. I found your mother trying to communicate with airport staff. She needed help. Another pause, longer this time. Put her on. I need to know she's safe. She can't hear you, Camille reminded him patiently. That's why she asked me to call. Then tell her to stay exactly where she is. I'll be there in 8 minutes. Don't leave her side. It wasn't a request. It was an order, delivered with the absolute certainty of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. We'll be here, Camille said, keeping her voice neutral. The line went dead. Camille handed the phone back to Rosa and signed. Your son is on his way. He'll be here in about 8 minutes. He sounded very worried. Rosa's expression was complicated, affection mixed with something that looked almost like resignation.
Yes.
Matteo is always worried. It's his nature now.
Now.
Camille caught the word. He wasn't always. Rosa's hands moved slowly, sadly. He was different once. When he was young. Before life taught him to be hard. Before Camille could probe further, Rosa straightened, her attention caught by something beyond Camille's shoulder. Her expression shifted to something between relief and apprehension. He's here, she signed. Camille turned and felt the air in the terminal change. The crowd was parting like the Red Sea, people instinctively stepping back without quite knowing why. A group of men in dark suits moved through the terminal with military precision, their eyes scanning constantly, their hands positioned near their jackets in a way that suggested they weren't just carrying phones. And at the center of this moving formation walked a man who made Camille's breath catch, not from attraction, but from the sheer force of presence he radiated. Matteo Marchesi was maybe 40, tall and lean, dressed in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than Camille's monthly rent. His dark hair was perfectly styled, his strong-jawed face cleanly shaven. But it was his eyes that stopped her, dark, intelligent, and absolutely devoid of softness. They swept the terminal like a predator assessing threats, and when they landed on Rosa, something flickered there. Not warmth exactly, but something. Then those eyes found Camille, and she felt herself being evaluated, categorized, analyzed in the space of a heartbeat. The entire terminal had gone quiet. People were staring, pulling out phones, whispering. Someone muttered something that sounded like, "Oh my God, is that?" Matteo reached them in seconds. He moved past Camille without acknowledgement, his attention fixed entirely on Rosa. His hands lifted, and he signed with quick, precise movements. "Mama, are you hurt? Did anyone bother you?" Rosa shook her head, her hands moving to cup her son's face.
Ai fine, tesoro.
"This kind woman helped me. Camille." Only then did Matteo turn to fully face Camille. Up close, his presence was even more overwhelming, like standing too near a barely contained storm. He studied her for a long moment, and she had the unsettling sense that he was seeing far more than she wanted to reveal. Then, to her complete shock, he bowed. Not a casual nod, but a formal, respectful bow that made several of his suited companions blink in surprise. When he straightened, his hands moved. "Thank you for helping my mother. You have my gratitude." His signing was technically perfect, every gesture precise, every hand shape exact. But it was like watching a machine perform language. There was no expression in his face, no fluidity in his movements. The words were there, but something essential was missing. Camille signed back automatically. She needed help. Anyone would have done the same. Something almost like amusement flickered in those dark eyes. "No," he signed, still with that mechanical precision. "They wouldn't have." He pulled out a wallet, leather, expensive, and extracted what looked like several $100 bills. He held them out to Camille. She stepped back, shaking her head. "I don't want payment. I was just helping." "Then consider it a donation to your hospital," he said aloud, his voice carrying that same controlled quality as his signing. "For their interpretation services. That's generous, but unnecessary." His eyes narrowed slightly. "I don't like being in debt." "You're not," Camille said firmly. "Your mother needed help. I helped. That's it. No debt, no payment needed." For a moment, she thought he might argue. Then Rosa's hand touched his arm, and she signed something private, something Camille couldn't quite catch. Matteo's jaw tightened, but he returned his wallet to his pocket. "Then you have my thanks," he signed again. "My mother is precious to me." He turned to guide Rosa toward the waiting cars, and Camille thought that was the end of it. A strange encounter, a good deed, now complete. Then Rosa turned back, pulling away from her son's gentle hand. She moved to Camille and clasped her hands tightly, her eyes bright with emotion. "You gave me my voice back," Rosa signed. "In a place where no one could hear me. You listened. I won't forget that." Camille squeezed her hands gently. "Take care of yourself, Rosa." As the group moved away, Matteo hovering protectively near his mother, the suited men forming a defensive perimeter, Camille became aware of the dozens of phones pointed their way, of the whispers rising like a tide around her. "Did you see that?" He bowed to her. Matteo Marchesi actually bowed. "Who is she?" "I'm posting this right now." Camille felt a chill run down her spine. Matteo Marchesi. That name meant something clearly. Something that made people stare and whisper and record. She grabbed her bag and hurried toward baggage claim, suddenly eager to get home to her normal life, to Luna's dinosaur pajamas and Mrs. Patterson's cheerful gossip and her small apartment where danger came in the form of overdue bills, not men in suits with guns. She didn't know that in helping Rosa, she'd just stepped into a world that would change everything. She didn't know that kindness sometimes came with consequences. She didn't know that Rosa Marchesi never forgot a debt or a face. And she especially didn't know that in exactly 4 days, an envelope would arrive that would pull her back into an orbit she'd tried to escape. But she'd learn. Soon. Camille should have known something was wrong when Mrs. Patterson opened the door with wide eyes and her phone clutched in her hand like a lifeline. "Camille. Oh my God. I've been trying to call you." "My phone died at the airport," Camille said, confused by her neighbor's agitation. "What's wrong? Is Luna okay?" "Luna's fine, she's asleep." "But you Mrs. Patterson pulled her inside and shoved her phone in Camille's face. "You're all over the internet." The video was grainy but clear enough. There was Camille, stepping forward to help Rosa. There was the crowd parting. There was Matteo Marchesi bowing to her, the moment frozen and replayed from a dozen different angles across social media. The captions made her stomach drop. Mystery woman saves Mafia boss's mother. Matteo Marchesi shows respect.
Who is she?
Chicago's bravest woman meets the most dangerous man. Marchesi airbows to stranger at O'Hare. Unprecedented moment caught on camera. Mafia boss. The words seemed to echo in her skull. "I didn't know," Camille whispered. She needed help. I didn't know who they were." Mrs. Patterson's expression softened. "Of course you didn't, honey. You saw someone who needed help and you helped them. That's who you are," she hesitated. "But the Marchesi family. Camille, they're not just wealthy. They're connected. Powerful. Dangerous, some say." Camille sank onto the couch, her mind reeling. She'd helped a mafia boss's mother. She'd signed with a man who what? Ran criminal operations? Hurt people? The thought made her sick. "I just want to forget this ever happened," she said quietly. Mrs. Patterson squeezed her shoulder. "I'm sure it'll blow over. Social media moves fast. By tomorrow, everyone will be talking about something else." But Mrs. Patterson was wrong. Over the next 3 days, Camille's life became surreal. Reporters called the hospital asking for interviews. A local news station wanted her to come on air and tell her story. Someone had identified her from the video and posted her name online, along with where she worked. The hospital administrator called her into his office, his expression grave. "Camille, I need to ask, are you in any danger? Should we be concerned about security?" "No," she said firmly. "It was just a chance encounter. Nothing more." But even as she said it, she noticed the black car that seemed to idle near the hospital parking lot every evening when her shift ended. Not threatening, just there. Watching. On the 4th day, when she arrived home from work, Luna was at the kitchen table doing homework while Mrs. Patterson cooked dinner. And on the small dining table sat a cream-colored envelope, thick and expensive-looking. "That came for you today," Mrs. Patterson said. Hand-delivered by a very polite man in a suit who looked like he could break someone in half. Camille's hands trembled slightly as she opened it. Inside was a letter, written in elegant, old-fashioned script. "Dear Camille, I hope this letter finds you well, and I pray my son's world has not caused you distress. I have seen the videos online. I am old, but not so old that I don't know how to use the internet. I want you to know how deeply your kindness moved me. In my 72 years, I have met many people. Most see my son's name and either fear us or want something from us. You saw only an old woman who needed help. I know this may seem forward, but I would very much like to see you again. Not because of obligation or debt, but because I felt, in those few minutes at the airport, that I had met a friend. Real friends are rare in my world. Would you consider visiting me? Just for tea and conversation? Once a week, if your schedule permits? I promise you are in no danger. My son's business does not touch his home, and I would never allow harm to come to someone who showed me such grace. There is another reason I ask. I have been deaf for 15 years. My son learned to sign for me. He learned so quickly, so perfectly. But somewhere along the way, he learned only the words, not the heart behind them. We speak, but we don't truly communicate anymore. You understand this language in a way that is rare. You sign with your whole spirit. I wonder if you might teach him, how to truly talk again. I know I am asking much, but I am an old woman with few hopes left, and one of them is to truly speak with my son again before I die. Your friend, if you'll have me, Rosa Marchesi. P.S. Please don't let fear of my son's reputation keep you away. The man the world sees is not the boy I raised, but that boy is still in there somewhere. I know it." Beneath Rosa's letter was a second note, this one typed on heavy cardstock. "Miss Torres, my mother has requested your presence. I will not insult you by pretending this is solely my wish. It is hers. However, I will respect whatever decision you make. If you choose to accept, a car will be available any Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. outside Chicago Memorial Hospital. The driver's name is Luca. He is trustworthy and will ensure your safety. If you decline, you will not hear from us again. No pressure.
No consequences.
You have my word. Respectfully, Matteo Marchesi. P.S. The car that has been near the hospital is there for your protection, not surveillance. The media attention has attracted unwanted interest. Once you're no longer in the news cycle, it will disappear. You have my apology for any discomfort it has caused. Camille read both letters twice, her mind spinning. What is it? Mrs. Patterson asked gently. An invitation. From Rosa, the woman I helped. And are you going to accept? Camille looked at her daughter, bent over her math homework, tongue poking out in concentration. She thought about her safe, predictable life. Her small apartment. Her hospital shifts. Her careful budget and quiet routine. Then she thought about Rosa's face at the airport, the desperate relief when someone finally understood her. She thought about those words, "In my world, real friends are rare." She thought about Matteo's perfect, emotionless signing, about Rosa's quiet plea, "We speak, but we don't truly communicate anymore." "I don't know," Camille admitted, "but I think I might, because sometimes kindness demanded more than a single moment. Sometimes it required courage to step into the unknown. And sometimes Camille was learning the most dangerous thing wasn't the world you entered. It was the regret of turning away from someone who genuinely needed you. She put the letters in her drawer and tried to focus on the ordinary evening ahead. But she already knew what her answer would be. Thursday afternoon arrived with unexpected sunshine. Camille had changed her scrubs 3 times that morning, a nervous habit she thought she'd outgrown, before settling on simple jeans and a cream sweater. Professional but not formal. Approachable but not casual. She told Rosa yes via a brief text to the number included in the letter. The response had been immediate. "My heart is full. Thursday at 3.
Rosa.
Now, at 2:55 p.m., Camille stood outside Chicago Memorial's main entrance, her stomach performing acrobatics. A sleek black Mercedes pulled up precisely on time, and a man in his 50s stepped out, silver hair, kind eyes, built like someone who'd spent years in serious physical training. "Miss Torres? I'm Luca." His voice was gentle, accented. "Mrs. Marchesi is very excited to see you." The car's interior was immaculate leather and polished wood. As they pulled into traffic, Camille tried to calm her nerves by watching the city slide past. "How long have you worked for the Marchesi family?" she asked. Luca's eyes crinkled in the rear-view mirror. 23 years. I drove Matteo to his first day of school. Now I drive his mother to her doctor's appointments." He paused. "Mrs. Rosa is a good woman. The best I've known. And Matteo." Luca's expression became carefully neutral. "Mr. Marchesi is complicated, but he loves his mother more than anything in this world. That you can trust." They drove north, leaving the city behind. The landscape shifted from urban sprawl to wealthy suburbs to, finally, genuine countryside. When they turned onto a private road lined with old oak trees, Camille's breath caught. The estate wasn't what she'd expected. No gaudy mansion or ostentatious displays of wealth. Instead, a beautiful Italian-style villa emerged from the landscape as if it had grown there naturally. Golden stone, terracotta roof tiles, climbing roses on the walls. But as they approached, Camille noticed other details. The discreet cameras, the men positioned at strategic points around the property, the heavy gates that opened smoothly at their approach. Beautiful, yes, but also a fortress. Luca pulled up to the main entrance, where Rosa stood waiting, her face alight with joy. She was dressed simply in a lavender cardigan and slacks, her silver hair loose around her shoulders. "You came," Rosa signed the moment Camille stepped from the car. "I was afraid you might change your mind." "I almost did," Camille admitted with a smile. "But I wanted to see you again." Rosa clasped her hands warmly, then led her inside. The main floor was stunning, all marble and art and expensive furniture, but somehow cold, like a museum. Everything perfectly placed, nothing that spoke of actual life being lived there. My son decorated this floor, Rosa signed with a slight grimace. He thinks it's what wealthy people should have. I think it looks like a hotel. They climbed a curved staircase, and Rosa led her down a hallway to a door at the end. When she opened it, the contrast was startling. Rosa's suite exploded with warmth and color. Handmade quilts in vibrant patterns draped over furniture. Photographs covered every surface. Rosa as a young mother, a serious dark-haired boy at various ages, candid shots that captured rare smiles. Books in Italian and English were stacked everywhere. Plants crowded the windowsills. A half-finished embroidery sat on a table by the window, a garden scene rendered in meticulous detail. "This is my real home," Rosa signed. "The rest of the house is Matteo's world. This is mine." A knock sounded, and Matteo entered without waiting for an answer. He'd changed from the immaculate suit to dark slacks and a white button-down with the sleeves rolled up, still formal, but slightly less armor-like. His eyes found Camille immediately. "Ms. Torres, thank you for coming." "Thank you for the invitation," she signed back, watching his face carefully. Something flickered in his expression, surprise, maybe, that she'd signed instead of speaking. He responded in kind. "My mother has spoken of nothing else for days." "I'm excited too," Rosa cut in, gesturing them toward the small seating area. "Sit, both of you. I made tea." As Rosa busied herself with her electric kettle and a tin of Italian cookies, Camille observed the dynamic between mother and son. Rosa's movements were fluid, comfortable in her space. Matteo perched on the edge of an armchair like a man ready to bolt, his shoulders tight with tension. Rosa began the conversation, her hands moving expressively. "Camille, tell Matteo about your daughter." "Luna, yes? What is she like?" Camille relaxed slightly, signing about Luna's current obsession with paleontology, her determination to be the first person to discover a new dinosaur species, her absolutely terrible knock-knock jokes. Rosa laughed, a silent, joyful movement of her whole body. She signed to Matteo. "Children are wonderful, aren't they? Remember when you wanted to be an astronaut?" Matteo's hands moved stiffly. "I was 7. You were determined. You made me buy you every book about space." Rosa's signs were warm with memory. "Things change." Matteo's response was clipped, his face expressionless. Camille saw it clearly now, what Rosa had meant in her letter. Matteo's signs were technically perfect, grammatically flawless, but they lacked any emotional resonance. He signed like he was filling out paperwork, not having a conversation with his mother. Rosa's face fell slightly, and she turned to Camille with a look that said, "You see." Camille set down her teacup and addressed them both. "Before we start any real work together, I need to understand something. Matteo, you sign fluently. When did you learn?" He was quiet for a moment. 15 years ago, when my mother lost her hearing after an illness." "You learned quickly?" "Very quickly. I hired the best teachers. I needed to communicate with her. And at first, in the beginning..." Something shifted in his expression, a crack in the armor. "At first, it was different."
How?
Camille pressed gently. Matteo's jaw tightened. He looked at his mother, then away. When his hands finally moved, they were slower, more careful. "At first, I was just a scared 25-year-old who thought he might never really talk to his mother again. Every sign mattered because it was our only connection. I paid attention to everything, her expressions, her mood, the small signals. I wasn't just learning a language. I was learning how to keep from losing her." "And now?" Camille asked softly. Matteo's hands fell still. He stared at them as if they belonged to someone else. When he finally spoke, it was aloud, his voice rough. "Now I'm someone who can't afford to feel that afraid anymore." The room went silent. Rosa's eyes filled with tears she didn't let fall. Camille understood then, this wasn't about teaching sign language. It was about teaching a man who'd built walls so high he couldn't reach his own mother how to be vulnerable again. It was about teaching him that being afraid didn't mean being weak. Then, that's where we'll start. Camille signed to both of them. Not with grammar or vocabulary. With permission to feel. Mateo looked at her like she'd spoken in an alien language. But Rosa smiled through her tears and squeezed her son's hand. It was a beginning. Over the next 3 weeks, Thursday afternoons became sacred time in Rosa's suite. Camille arrived promptly at 3, was greeted with Rosa's warm embraces, and spent 2 hours trying to teach a Mafia boss how to sign with his heart instead of his hands. It was the hardest work she'd ever done. "Watch Rosa," Camille instructed during their 4th session, positioning herself where both could see her. "Rosa, tell Mateo about your day. Anything that happened." Rosa's face lit up. Her hands moved with natural fluidity. "This morning, I watched a cardinal build a nest outside my window. She kept bringing twigs, dropping them, starting over. So determined. It made me think of you as a boy, Mateo. Remember when you tried to build that tree house?" Her whole body participated in the story, leaning forward with excitement, her expression shifting from amusement to tenderness. The signs weren't just hand movements, they were a performance of emotion. Camille turned to Mateo.
Now you.
"Tell Rosa about something from your day." Mateo's shoulders tensed. His hands lifted mechanically. "I had meetings. Reviewed contracts. Standard business." His face remained blank. His posture rigid. The words were there, but they landed like stones, heavy and lifeless. "Stop," Camille signed. "You're reporting, not sharing. Try again, but this time, think about how the day felt, not just what happened." "I don't understand the difference," Mateo said aloud, frustration creeping into his voice. "Yes, you do," Camille replied, switching to spoken English. "You just won't let yourself access it. When you tell your mother about your day, you're protecting her from who you've become. You're editing yourself." Mateo's jaw clenched. "Maybe she needs protecting." "I'm sitting right here," Rosa signed sharply, drawing their attention. "And I'm not fragile. I'm your mother. I want to know my son, not the mask he wears for the world." Something dangerous flashed in Mateo's eyes. Pain, quickly buried. He stood abruptly. "I need air." He left the room without another word, the door closing with controlled precision that somehow felt worse than a slam. Rosa's hands trembled as she signed to Camille. "You see? He runs. Every time we get close to something real, he runs." "He's not running from you," Camille signed gently. "He's running from himself. From feeling. Whatever he does in his business, it requires him to be hard, controlled, unfeeling. He's afraid if he opens up here, even a little, he won't be able to close it again." "But that's no way to live," Rosa signed, tears tracking down her weathered cheeks. "That's just existing. Surviving. He's already lost so much, his father, his innocence, his softness. I can't lose him too, even though he stands right in front of me." Camille moved to sit beside Rosa, taking her hand. "We'll get through to him. But it might get harder before it gets easier." 20 minutes later, Mateo returned. His hair was windblown, his composure reestablished. He sat down without apology or explanation. "Again," he said simply, his hands moving. "Let's try again." This time, Camille changed tactics. "Tell me about the treehouse Rosa mentioned. What do you remember?" Mateo's hands hesitated. For a moment, Camille thought he'd refuse. Then, slowly, his fingers began to move. "I was 9. I found plans in a library book and decided I would build it myself. No help. It took me 3 weeks of hitting my thumb with hammers and dropping wood and starting over." His signing was still controlled, but Camille noticed something. His eyes had shifted slightly, focusing on a memory rather than the present. A tiny crack in the armor. "What did it feel like when you finished it?" she pressed. Mateo's hand stilled. The silence stretched. Then, proud. Terrified someone would see it wasn't perfect. Desperate for my father to notice. "There, A flicker of expression crossed his face. Just for a second, but both Rosa and Camille saw it. Did he notice? Rosa signed softly. Mateo looked at his mother. He told me it was crooked, that if I was going to do something, I should do it right or not at all. The pain in those words, even signed with restraint, was palpable. But I loved that treehouse, Rosa signed, her own expression full of fierce protectiveness. I used to bring you lunch up there. You'd sit in your crooked treehouse like a king in his castle, and you were so happy. For just a moment, Mateo's face softened. His hands moved with something almost like warmth. I remember. You made sandwiches cut into triangles because I said they tasted better that way. They did taste better, Rosa signed back, smiling through her tears. Scientifically proven by a 9-year-old. And then, impossibly, the corner of Mateo's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but the ghost of one. Camille held her breath, not wanting to break the moment. See, she signed carefully. That's what I mean. Right there, that memory, that feeling, that tiny almost smile. That's the heart of signing. That's what your mother wants to see. Mateo's expression shuddered again, the moment passing. But something had shifted. The fortress had a crack in it, hairline thin but real. This is hard, he signed, and for the first time, his hand showed real emotion, frustration, vulnerability, exhaustion. I know, Camille signed back. But hard doesn't mean impossible. And your mother isn't asking for perfection. She's just asking for you to try. Mateo looked at Rosa, really looked at her, perhaps for the first time in years. His hands moved slowly, carefully, and for once, his face matched his words. I am trying, Mama. I promise I am. Rosa stood and crossed to her son, wrapping him in a fierce embrace. He stiffened at first, then gradually his arms came up to hold her back. Camille quietly gathered her things, giving them privacy. As she reached the door, Mateo's voice stopped her. Same time next week. She turned. He was still holding his mother, but his eyes were on Camille, dark, intense, and carrying something she couldn't quite read. Same time, she confirmed. As Luca drove her back to the city, Camille realized something unsettling. She was becoming invested. Not just in Rosa's happiness or the success of the lessons, but in Mateo's journey back to himself. And that, she suspected, was dangerous territory. The shift happened so gradually that Camille almost didn't notice it at first. It started with small things. Mateo began arriving to their sessions 5 minutes early instead of exactly on time. His signing, while still controlled, carried fractionally more expression each week. Once, when Rosa told a particularly funny story about their old neighbor's escaped parrot, Camille caught an actual smile, brief but genuine, flash across his face. By the 7th week, they'd established a rhythm. Rosa would make tea. They'd start with casual conversation to warm up. Then Camille would give them exercises designed to build emotional connection rather than technical skill. Today, Camille announced during their 8th session, we're going to try something different. Rosa, I want you to tell Mateo something you've never told him before. Something real. Something that matters. Rosa's hands fluttered nervously. Like what? Something you wish he knew about you. About how you feel. About your life. Rosa looked at her son, uncertainty crossing her features. Then, slowly, her hands began to move. When your father died, I thought I would die too. Not from grief, though there was plenty of that, but from loneliness. Your father and I talked about everything. When he was gone, I realized I hadn't just lost my husband. I'd lost the only person who really knew me. Mateo's posture went rigid, but his eyes stayed fixed on his mother's hands. Rosa continued, Then I lost my hearing, and I thought this is it. Now I'll be completely alone. But you learned to sign for me, and I was so grateful. Except she paused, her hands trembling. Except somewhere along the way, you stopped talking to me and started managing me. You give me everything I need, but nothing I want. Which is just you. My son. Not my protector or provider. Just You. The silence that followed was deafening. Mateo stared at his hands as if they'd betrayed him. I didn't know, he said aloud, his voice rough. I thought. Sign it, Camille instructed gently. Whatever you're feeling right now, sign it. Mateo's hands lifted slowly. I thought keeping you safe meant keeping distance. That if I let you see who I've become, the things I do, the decisions I make, you'd be ashamed of me. Rosa's eyes filled with tears. Oh, my son. I know who you are. I've always known. Do you think a mother doesn't see? Doesn't understand? I don't love the choices you've made, but I love you. Always. Completely. Nothing you could do would make me stop. How can you say that? Mateo signed, and for the first time, his face showed raw emotion, anguish, disbelief, desperate hope. You don't know everything. The things I've done. I don't need to know everything. Rosa cut him off, her signs fierce. I need to know you're still in there. That my boy, my soft-hearted boy who cried over injured birds and built crooked treehouses, is still alive somewhere under all that armor. Mateo's hands dropped. He stood abruptly, walking to the window, his back to them. His shoulders shook once, just once, and Camille realized with shock that Mateo Marchesi, the man who commanded fear with a glance, was crying. Rosa moved to him immediately, wrapping her arms around her son from behind. She was so much smaller than him, but in that moment, she was the strong one. Camille stood quietly, preparing to leave them alone. But Mateo turned, and through his tears, he signed something that made Rosa sob. I'm so tired, Mama. I'm so tired of being this person. But I don't know how to be anyone else anymore. Then let me help you remember. Rosa signed back. Let us help you. You don't have to do this alone. Camille slipped out of the room, closing the door softly behind her. She stood in the hallway, her own eyes damp, and tried to collect herself. You're good at this. She jumped. Luca stood at the end of the hallway, his expression knowing. At what? At reaching the unreachable, he moved closer, his voice low. I've worked for this family since Mateo was 17. I watched his father turn a smart, sensitive boy into something hard and cold. I watched him lose himself piece by piece. In 2 months, you've done what no one else could. You've reminded him he's still human. I'm just teaching sign language, Camille protested weakly. No, Luca said firmly. You're teaching them how to love each other again. That's far more dangerous and far more valuable. Before Camille could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from Luna's school. Luna has a fever. Please pick her up from the nurse's office. Camille's heart sank. I have to go. Luna's sick. I'll drive you. No, I can take a cab. Mrs. Rosa would have my head if I let you cab back to the city when your daughter needs you.
Come.
During the drive, Camille called Mrs. Patterson to let her know she'd be home soon. As they hit city traffic, Luca glanced at her in the mirror. May I give you some advice, Miss Torres? Of course. Be careful. Not of Mateo. He would never hurt you. But of caring too much. This family, he paused, choosing words carefully. They pull people into their orbit, and it's hard to escape the gravity once you're caught. I'm not caught, Camille said. I'm just helping.
Luca smiled sadly.
That's what they all say at first. When they pulled up to Luna's school, Camille thanked Luca and hurried inside. Luna looked miserable, her forehead warm with fever, her usual energy depleted. Mama, she whimpered. I don't feel good. I know, baby. Let's get you home. As Camille carried her daughter to catch a cab, supporting Luna's weight against her hip, she thought about what Luca had said. About orbits and gravity and being pulled into something you couldn't escape. She thought about Mateo's tears, about Rosa's fierce love, about the way she'd started looking forward to Thursdays with an intensity that had nothing to do with professional duty. And she realized, with a mixture of excitement and dread, that Luca was right. She was already caught. The question was, did she want to break free? Or was she exactly where she was meant to be? Luna's fever broke by morning, but Camille kept her home from school anyway. They spent Friday curled on the couch in their small apartment, Luna dozing between episodes of her favorite dinosaur documentary, while Camille caught up on laundry and bills. This was her real life. Not elegant villas or emotional breakthroughs with complicated men. This was stained carpet that no amount of scrubbing would fully clean, a refrigerator held shut with duct tape because the seal had broken months ago, and a daughter who needed her completely.
Nana.
Luna's voice was still scratchy from her fever. Where do you go on Thursdays? Camille folded a pair of small jeans. I visit a friend, an elderly woman who's deaf, like some of the patients I help at the hospital. Does she have grandkids?
No, sweetheart.
Just a grown son. Luna considered this. That's sad. Everyone should have grandkids. Mrs. Patterson says grandkids are what make getting old worth it. Camille smiled. Mrs. Patterson says a lot of things. Is your friend lonely? The question caught Camille off guard. She thought about Rose's suite, that explosion of color and life in an otherwise cold house. About how Rose's face lit up every Thursday when Camille arrived. Yeah, baby. I think she is. Luna sat up, her expression serious despite her flushed cheeks. Then I'm glad you visit her. You always tell me that being kind is the most important thing, even when it's hard. Camille pulled her daughter close, breathing in the sweaty, sick smell of her hair. When did you get so wise? I've always been wise. You just don't listen because I'm 8-inch. That weekend, Camille tried to focus on the ordinary rhythms of her life. Saturday morning meant grocery shopping, carefully calculating every item, putting back the name-brand cereal Luna wanted because the generic was $2 cheaper. It meant explaining again why they couldn't afford the new backpack shaped like a dinosaur, watching Luna's face try not to show disappointment. Sunday meant church with Mrs. Patterson, then an afternoon at the Free Museum, then meal prep for the week ahead, chicken and rice stretched across 5 dinners, lunches packed in worn containers. This was the world she understood. The world where she was in control, where the rules were clear. Work hard, budget carefully, protect your daughter, build a good life from limited resources. But Thursday kept creeping into her thoughts. She found herself wondering if Mateo had practiced the exercises she'd left them, whether Rosa was okay, whether that crack they'd opened in Mateo's armor had sealed back up or widened. Monday at the hospital, her supervisor pulled her aside. Camille, we've had another request for you specifically.
Oh.
She was used to patients requesting her. She'd built a reputation as one of the most skilled interpreters on staff. From a private client. Excellent pay, triple your hourly rate. They want you to come to their home twice a week for family interpretation sessions. Camille's stomach dropped. Who's the client? Her supervisor's expression was carefully neutral. They asked for discretion, but given your recent visibility, I assume you can guess. Should I tell them you're interested? No, the word came out sharper than intended. I mean, I appreciate the offer, but I can't accept. Camille, that money could. I know what it could do, she interrupted, but I'm not there for money. I'm there because she trailed off, unsure how to explain. Her supervisor studied her for a long moment. Be careful, Camille. Mixing professional and personal with people like that, it rarely ends well. The warning stayed with her all week. Wednesday night, she got a text from an unknown number. This is Mateo. My mother wanted me to tell you that she's very excited for tomorrow. Also, she's been practicing the feeling exercises on me constantly. I'm not sure whether to thank you or demand hazard pay. Despite herself, Camille smiled. She could picture Rosa enthusiastically making Mateo practice emotional expression at breakfast, during their evening tea, whenever she could corner him. She typed back, that means she's taking it seriously. How are you finding it? The response took several minutes. Uncomfortable. Necessary. Strange. All of the above. That's good. Growth is supposed to be uncomfortable. Spoken like someone who teaches for a living then, my mother also asked me to tell you that if you ever need anything at all, you only have to ask. She considers you family now. Camille stared at that last sentence for a long time. Family. The word carried weight in any context, but from Rosa Marchesi, from this world Camille barely understood, it felt like both a gift and a warning. She didn't respond. Thursday morning, Luna bounced back to full health, insisted on wearing her dinosaur shirt to school, and gave Camille an extra tight hug at drop-off. "Visit your friend today?" she asked. "Yes, baby. Tell her I said hi, and that if she ever wants to meet a real-live kid, I'm available."
Camille laughed.
"I'll let her know." At 2:55, she stood outside the hospital, watching the black Mercedes approach. As Luca opened the door for her, Camille made a decision. This would be the last session. She'd help Rosa and Matteo through one more lesson, then she'd step back, return to her real life, to the world where she belonged, where the rules made sense, where caring for people didn't come with armed guards and whispered warnings. She'd tell them today. It was the responsible thing to do, the safe thing. As the car pulled away from the hospital, Camille repeated this decision like a mantra. She'd tell them today. She absolutely would. She had to. Luna's fever broke by morning, but Camille kept her home from school anyway. They spent Friday curled on the couch in their small apartment, Luna dozing between episodes of her favorite dinosaur documentary, while Camille caught up on laundry and bills. This was her real life. Not elegant villas or emotional breakthroughs with complicated men. This was stained carpet that no amount of scrubbing would fully clean, a refrigerator held shut with duct tape because the seal had broken months ago, and a daughter who needed her completely.
Nana.
Luna's voice was still scratchy from her fever. "Where do you go on Thursdays?" Camille folded a pair of small jeans. "I visit a friend, an elderly woman who's deaf, like some of the patients I help at the hospital." "Does she have grandkids?"
No, sweetheart.
"Just a grown son." Luna considered this. "That's sad. Everyone should have grandkids." "Mrs. Patterson says grandkids are what make getting old worth it." Camille smiled. "Mrs. Patterson says a lot of things. Is your friend lonely?" The question caught Camille off guard. She thought about Rosa's suite, that explosion of color and life in an otherwise cold house. About how Rosa's face lit up every Thursday when Camille arrived. "Yeah, baby. I think she is." Luna sat up, her expression serious despite her flushed cheeks. "Then I'm glad you visit her. You always tell me that being kind is the most important thing, even when it's hard." Camille pulled her daughter close, breathing in the sweaty sick smell of her hair. "When did you get so wise?" "I've always been wise. You just don't listen because I'm 8-inch. That weekend, Camille tried to focus on the ordinary rhythms of her life. Saturday morning meant grocery shopping, carefully calculating every item, putting back the name-brand cereal Luna wanted because the generic was $2 cheaper. It meant explaining again why they couldn't afford the new backpack, shaped like a dinosaur, watching Luna's face try not to show disappointment. Sunday meant church with Mrs. Patterson, then an afternoon at the Free Museum, then meal prep for the week ahead, chicken and rice stretched across 5 dinners, lunches packed in worn containers. This was the world she understood. The world where she was in control, where the rules were clear. Work hard, budget carefully, protect your daughter, build a good life from limited resources. But Thursday kept creeping into her thoughts. She found herself wondering if Matteo had practiced the exercises she'd left them, whether Rosa was okay, whether that crack they'd opened in Matteo's armor had sealed back up or widened. Monday at the hospital, her supervisor pulled her aside. "Camille, we've had another request for you specifically." "Oh." She was used to patients requesting her. She'd built a reputation as one of the most skilled interpreters on staff. "From a private client. Excellent pay. Triple your hourly rate. They want you to come to their home twice a week for family interpretation sessions." Camille's stomach dropped. "Who's the client?" Her supervisor's expression was carefully neutral. "They asked for discretion, but given your recent visibility, I assume you can guess. Should I tell them you're interested?" "No." The word came out sharper than intended. "I mean, I appreciate the offer, but I can't accept." "Camille, that money could." "I know what it could do," she interrupted. But I'm not there for money. I'm there because she trailed off, unsure how to explain. Her supervisor studied her for a long moment. Be careful, Camille. Mixing professional and personal with people like that, it rarely ends well. The warning stayed with her all week. Wednesday night, she got a text from an unknown number. This is Mateo. My mother wanted me to tell you that she's very excited for tomorrow. Also, she's been practicing the feeling exercises on me constantly. I'm not sure whether to thank you or demand hazard pay. Despite herself, Camille smiled. She could picture Rosa enthusiastically making Mateo practice emotional expression at breakfast, during their evening tea, whenever she could corner him. She typed back, "That means she's taking it seriously. How are you finding it? Tell her I said hi, and that if she ever wants to meet a real-life kid, I'm available."
Camille laughed.
I'll let her know. At 2:55, she stood outside the hospital, watching the black Mercedes approach. As Luca opened the door for her, Camille made a decision. This would be the last session. She'd help Rosa and Mateo through one more lesson, then she'd step back, return to her real life, to the world where she belonged, where the rules made sense, where caring for people didn't come with armed guards and whispered warnings. She'd tell them today. It was the responsible thing to do, the safe thing. As the car pulled away from the hospital, Camille repeated this decision like a mantra. She'd tell them today. She absolutely would. She had to. Camille never got the chance to end things. When she arrived at the estate, something was wrong. The guards at the gate were doubled. Men in dark suits spoke urgently into earpieces. The usual calm efficiency had been replaced with controlled tension. Luca's jaw was tight as they drove up. There's been a situation. Mrs. Rosa insisted you still come, but Mr. Marchesi may not be available for the session. What kind of situation? The kind I can't discuss, Ms. Torres. I'm sorry. Rosa met her at the door, and Camille was shocked by the change. The elderly woman's face was drawn with worry, her hands trembling as she signed. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would, with all this chaos. What's happening? Rosa led her upstairs quickly, glancing over her shoulder. Once inside her suite with the door closed, she sank into her chair and signed. There are people, bad people, who think Mateo is weak because he's been spending time with family instead of business. They're wrong, but perception is reality in his world. Someone made a move last night, challenged his authority. Is he okay? Physically, yes. But Rosa's hands faltered. He's had to be the man I hate most today. Cold, ruthless, making decisions that will haunt him later. And he's doing it to protect me, to protect this small piece we've found. Camille felt ice in her stomach. This was the reality she'd been avoiding, that Mateo's softness at home had to be balanced by hardness everywhere else. That every moment of vulnerability he allowed himself here might cost him something out there. Maybe I should go, she signed. I don't want to add to the stress.
No.
Rosa's hands moved sharply. You're the only thing keeping him human right now.
Please stay.
Even if he doesn't come today, stay with me. I need. She stopped, her composure cracking. I need someone who sees me as more than a liability to be protected. So Camille stayed. She and Rosa had tea in weighted silence, making small talk that felt hollow. An hour passed. Then another. At 5:30, the door opened. Mateo stood in the doorway, and Camille barely recognized him. His suit was immaculate, his hair perfect, his face a mask of cold control. But his eyes were dead. Whatever he'd done today had cost him, and it showed in the way he held himself, like a man carrying invisible weight. You're still here, he signed to Camille, his movements mechanical again, all the progress lost. Your mother asked me to stay. That was kind of you. The words were right, but empty. He looked at Rosa. Mama, it's handled. You're safe. At what cost? Rosa signed, her face anguished. The necessary one, his expression didn't change. I should let you two continue. I have calls to make. Mateo, wait. Rosa started, but he was already turning away. Stop, Camille said aloud, surprising herself with the sharpness in her voice. Mateo froze. Slowly turned back.
Sit down, she said.
Not a request, a command. Right now. Something flickered in those dead eyes. Surprise, maybe, that someone was ordering him around in his own house. For a moment, she thought he'd refuse. Then, mechanically, he Saturday. Tell me what you're feeling, Camille signed. Nothing. I'm not feeling anything. That's a lie. You're feeling everything and shutting it all down because that's how you survive. But you can't do that here. This is the one place you get to be human. So tell me, what are you actually feeling? Mateo's jaw clenched. His hands didn't move. Rosa reached across and placed her hand on her son's knee. Please, Tesoro. We're not the world. We're family. Something broke. Camille saw it happen the exact moment the dam cracked. Mateo's hands lifted slowly, shaking. I'm feeling like a monster. Like my father. Like everything you raised me not to be. What happened? Rosa sighed gently. I can't tell you. I won't put that on you. Then tell me how it made you feel. His hands dropped to his lap. When he looked up, his eyes were wet.
Sick.
Hollow. Like I sold another piece of my soul, and I'm running out of pieces to sell. Rosa moved to kneel in front of her son, taking his face in her hands. She didn't sign, just held him, forcing him to look at her, to see her love and pain and fierce determination. Then Mateo did something Camille had never seen. He slid from the chair to the floor and put his head in his mother's lap, and he wept. Silent, shaking sobs that came from somewhere deep and broken. Rosa stroked his hair, tears streaming down her own face, and signed one-handed to Camille. This is why you have to keep coming. This is why we need you. You're the only one who can pull him back when he goes too far into the darkness. Camille felt the weight of those words settle on her shoulders. This wasn't about teaching sign language anymore. It was about being a lifeline for a man drowning in his own choices. And she realized, with stunning clarity, that she couldn't walk away. Not now. Maybe not ever. Because Rosa was right, someone needed to remind Mateo Marchesi that he was still human. And somehow, impossibly, that someone had become her. I'll stay, she signed to Rosa over Mateo's bowed head. As long as you need me, I'll stay. After that day, everything shifted. Camille stopped pretending this was just about sign language. She stopped trying to maintain professional distance. And most significantly, she stopped lying to herself about why Thursday afternoons had become the most important part of her week. The sessions took on a new intensity. Mateo showed up raw and willing, not always open, but at least present. The man who'd wept in his mother's lap hadn't disappeared. He'd just proven that vulnerability was possible. During their 10th session, Camille brought something new, a stack of photographs. What's this? Rosa signed curiously. An exercise in emotional memory. I want you both to bring me a photograph from your past, something that makes you feel something strong. Then tell me about it. Not just the facts. The feelings. Rosa immediately went to her collection, selecting a photo of herself as a young woman, heavily pregnant, laughing at something off-camera. This was taken 1 month before Mateo was born. Your father told a terrible joke about pickles. I laughed so hard I couldn't breathe. Her signs were full of warmth and nostalgia, her face soft with memory. Mateo studied the photo for a long moment. You look happy. I was. Terrified but happy. I didn't know what kind of world I was bringing you into. But I knew I would love you with everything I had. Mateo's expression was complicated love, grief, guilt all mixed together. His hands moved slowly. I'm sorry the world I gave you wasn't the one you deserved. You didn't give me a world, Tesoro. You inherited one. There's a difference. Camille turned to Mateo. Your turn. Show me a photo. He hesitated, then pulled out his phone. After scrolling for several minutes, he found what he was looking for and held it up. A young boy, maybe 12, standing next to a severe-looking man in an expensive suit. The boy's smile didn't reach his eyes. This was taken the day my father officially brought me into the family business. I'd just watched him conduct a negotiation that ended with someone leaving in an ambulance. Then we posed for this photo like it was my birthday party. The bitterness in his signing was palpable, his movements sharp, his face tight. How did you feel? Camille pressed. Proud. Terrified.
Sick.
All at once, his hands moved faster now, the emotion building. I wanted him to see me as strong, as worthy. But all I could think about was the blood on his cufflinks that he'd casually wiped away before putting his arm around me. Rosa's face crumpled. I didn't know he brought you that young. He promised me. He promised you a lot of things, Mama. Matteo's signing had shifted from bitter to protective. But he loved you. That part was real. Did he love you? Camille asked quietly. The question hung in the air. Matteo stared at the photograph, his jaw working. Finally, his hands moved. He loved the idea of me.
The heir.
The legacy. But me, the actual person I was?
No.
That boy wasn't useful to him. So he killed that boy and built something else. That boy isn't dead. Rosa signed fiercely. I see him every time you think I'm not looking. Every time you hesitate before making a cold decision. Every time you choose mercy when ruthlessness would be easier. Mercy is weakness in my world. Your father's world, Rosa corrected. Not yours. You have choices he never gave himself.
Doi.
Matteo's signing was raw now, all pretense stripped away. Because it doesn't feel like I have choices. It feels like I'm on a track that was laid before I was born, and the only variable is how much of my soul I lose along the way. Camille leaned forward. Then make a different choice.
Right now.
In this room. Show me the boy in that photo. Not the man your father built. I don't know how. Yes, you do. You've been doing it for weeks. Every time you let yourself feel something in front of your mother. Every time you sign with real emotion instead of just accuracy. That's you making a choice. Matteo looked at the photograph again, then at his mother, then at Camille. His hands lifted hesitantly. I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to explore space and discover new worlds, and be far away from this one. I used to stare at the stars and imagine being anywhere but here. His face, for once, matched his words, wistful, sad, achingly young. And now?
Camille asked.
Now I'm so deep in this world I can't see the stars anymore. He looked directly at her, and there was something in his eyes that made her breath catch. Until Thursday afternoons. When I come here, I remember what it felt like to want something different. The weight of his gaze, the vulnerability in his expression, it hit Camille like a physical force. This wasn't just about a son reconnecting with his mother anymore. This was about a man finding his way back to himself. And somehow, impossibly, Camille had become essential to that journey. Rosa watched them both, a knowing look crossing her face. She signed something private to Matteo, too quick for Camille to catch fully. Whatever it was made Matteo's eyes widen slightly before he looked away. Again, Camille signed, redirecting before the moment became too heavy. Tell me more about the boy who wanted to be an astronaut. And for the next hour, Matteo talked about dreams he'd buried so deep he'd forgotten they existed. About the books he'd read as a child, the telescope his mother had bought him, the notebook where he'd drawn elaborate plans for spaceships. Rosa cried quietly, hearing these stories for the first time in decades. And Camille realized she was witnessing something rare and precious, a man learning to feel again, one painful memory at a time. The call came at 11:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Camille was already asleep, exhausted from a double shift at the hospital. When her phone buzzed, she fumbled for it in the dark, her first panicked thought always Luna. But it was an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Hello. Her voice was thick with sleep. Miss Torres, this is Luca. His voice was tight, urgent. I'm sorry to call so late, but Mrs. Rosa is asking for you. She's very upset. Camille sat up, instantly awake. What happened? Is she hurt? No, but he paused. There's been an incident. Mr. Marchesi was. There was an attempt. He's physically fine, but Mrs. Rosa won't calm down, and he won't go near her because he doesn't want her to see him like this. She keeps asking for you. I'm an hour away, and I can't leave my daughter. I'm already outside your building. I'll wait while you arrange care. Please, Ms. Torres. She needs you. 10 minutes later, Camille had roused a confused Mrs. Patterson and was sliding into the back of Luca's car, still in sweatpants and a wrinkled t-shirt, her hair in a messy bun. Tell me what happened, she demanded as they sped through empty streets. Luca's hands gripped the wheel tightly. An ambush. 3 men. They didn't count on Mr. Marchesi being as fast as he is, or that I was following in a second car. He's not hurt, not seriously. But he had to. Luca swallowed hard. He had to defend himself. It was bad, Miss Torres. Where is he now? In his study. Refusing to see his mother until he's presentable, but Mrs. Rosa saw the blood on his clothes when he came in. She's terrified and he won't comfort her because he thinks he'll frighten her more. They arrived at the estate to find it lit up like a fortress, guards everywhere. Luca rushed her inside and up to Rosa's suite. Rosa sat in her chair, rocking slightly, her face blotchy from crying. The moment she saw Camille, she stood and stumbled forward, clutching at her. Thank God.
He won't come to me.
He won't let me see him. I don't care about the blood. I don't care what he had to do. I just need to know my son is alive. Where is he? Camille signed. Downstairs. His study. But he locked the door. Camille turned to Luca. Take me to him. Miss Torres, he gave explicit orders. I don't care about his orders. Take me to him now. Something in her voice must have convinced him, because Luca nodded and led her down the grand staircase to a heavy wooden door. He knocked. Mr. Marchesi, Miss Torres is here. I said no visitors. Mateo's voice was muffled but hard. Camille stepped forward and knocked harder. Mateo, it's Camille. Open the door. Silence. Your mother is upstairs terrified. She needs to see you're okay. Open the door, or I'll keep knocking until you do. More silence. Then the lock clicked. The door opened 6 inches. Mateo stood in shadow, blocking her view of the room. Tell my mother I'm fine. She doesn't need to see me right now. Camille pushed the door wider and stepped past him before he could stop her. The study was dark except for one lamp. Mateo's suit jacket lay crumpled on the floor, blood-stained. His white shirt was untucked, also marked with dark stains. His hands were bruised, knuckles split. But it was his face that stopped her. Not physically damaged, but emotionally devastated. You shouldn't be here, he said quietly. Your mother needs you. My mother needs to believe I'm something I'm not. He moved to a bar cart and poured amber liquid into a glass with shaking hands. Tonight reminded me exactly what I am. What happened? What always happens in my world. Someone challenged me. I responded. They won't challenge me again. He drank the entire glass in one swallow. 3 men came at me with guns. I had 15 seconds to decide if I wanted to live or die. I chose to live. The cost of that choice is currently being cleaned up by people I pay to clean up my messes. Camille felt cold. You killed them. 2 of them. The 3rd will wish I had. His voice was flat, emotionless. And tomorrow I'll go to sleep and do it again if I have to. Because that's who I am. That's what I do. And every Thursday I sit in my mother's room and pretend I'm someone different. But tonight proved the truth. I'm my father's son. I'm exactly what he built me to be. No, Camille moved closer. You're not. Look at me. His voice cracked. Look at my hands. These hands killed 2 people tonight. And in an hour, I'll have to go comfort my mother with these same hands. How do I do that? How do I touch her with hands that... He stopped, his breathing ragged. Camille reached out slowly and took his hands in hers. He tried to pull away, but she held firm. These hands also learned to sign because you loved your mother too much to lose her, she said quietly. These hands built a crooked treehouse because you wanted to create something beautiful. These hands have held your mother when she cried and tried, really tried to show emotion instead of hiding it. That doesn't erase what they've done.
No.
But it means you're more than the worst thing you've had to do to survive. She squeezed his hands. Your mother knows who you are. All of it. And she loves you anyway. Let her comfort you. Let her see you need her too. Mateo looked at their joined hands, his expression breaking. I'm so tired, Camille. I'm so tired of being this. I know. I don't know how to be both people. The one who does what I did tonight, and the one who sits in my mother's room and talks about spaceships and feelings. You don't have to figure it out tonight. Tonight you just have to go upstairs and let your mother hold you. He looked at her then, really looked at her, and something shifted in his expression. Why are you here? Why do you keep coming back to this? To us. Because someone has to remind you you're worth saving. The words hung between them, heavy with meaning neither was ready to examine. Finally, Mateo nodded. Will you come with me? To see her? Of course. They climbed the stairs together, and when Rosa saw her son, she ran to him, not caring about the blood or the violence or anything except that he was alive. She held him and he held her back, and over his mother's shoulder, Mateo's eyes found Camille's. In them, she saw gratitude, exhaustion, and something else, something that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. She was in too deep now. And she didn't want to find her way back out. The incident changed everything, though not in ways Camille immediately understood. The Thursday after the attack, armed security at the estate had tripled. Camille counted at least 12 men positioned around the property, all carrying visible weapons. The atmosphere was tense, hypervigilant. Rosa seemed smaller somehow, her usual warmth dimmed by fear. Mateo was physically present, but emotionally distant, his signing back to mechanical precision, all their progress seemingly erased. How are you? Camille signed to him during their session. Fine, his face was blank, his movements sharp. That's not true. It's the only answer that matters, he stood abruptly. Excuse me. I need to make a call. He left. Rosa watched him go with sad, knowing eyes. He's shutting down again, she signed to Camille, building his walls back up. I can feel him slipping away. Give him time. What happened was traumatic. Time is what I'm running out of, Rosa signed, her hands trembling. I'm 72 years old, Camille. I don't know how many more chances I'll have to reach him. Before Camille could respond, Luca appeared in the doorway, his expression grim. Miss Torres, I need to speak with you. Privately. In the hallway, Luca's professional demeanor cracked. The men who came after Mr. Marchesi, they didn't just target him. They've been gathering intelligence for weeks. About his operations, his properties, his vulnerabilities. What does that have to do with me? Luca's jaw tightened. They have photographs of you, arriving here every Thursday. They know your name, where you work, where you live. They know about Luna. The floor seemed to tilt beneath her. What? They're mapping his emotional connections, looking for pressure points. You've become visible to his enemies. But we're not. Camille couldn't finish the sentence. It doesn't matter what you are or aren't, Luca said gently. It matters what you appear to be. A woman who comes every week, who he lets into his mother's private suite, who he called personally the night of the attack. In this world, that's enough. Are we in danger? Luna and I. Mr. Marchesi has assigned protection. There's been a man watching your building since Tuesday. You probably haven't noticed him, but he's there. Camille felt sick. I didn't ask for this. I know. But you stepped into this family's orbit, and now you're caught in their gravity. Luca's expression was sympathetic. Mr. Marchesi is meeting with his advisors today. They're going to suggest you stop coming. For your safety and his mother's peace of mind. Does Rosa know? Not yet. He's trying to find a way to tell her. That evening, Camille's phone rang as she was putting Luna to bed. Mateo's number. Hello. Miss Torres, his voice was formal, distant. I need to speak with you. Not on the phone. Can you meet me tomorrow? There's a cafe near your hospital, Rossetti's. 2 p.m. This is about me stopping the sessions. A pause. Yes. Then tell me now. Don't make me wait. Camille, her name, not Miss Torres, and his voice cracked slightly on it.
Please.
Let me do this in person. You deserve that much. Against her better judgment, she agreed. Rossetti's was a small Italian cafe with red-checked tablecloths and the smell of fresh bread. Matteo sat in the back corner, 2 untouched espressos on the table. He looked exhausted, the lines around his eyes deeper than she remembered. You ordered for me, she noted, sliding into the seat across from him. I remember how you take your coffee. From those first sessions with my mother, he paused. I remember everything about those afternoons. Matteo. Let me say this before I lose the courage. He leaned forward, his voice low and urgent. You've been followed. Photographed. My enemies know about you, which means they know you matter. And in my world, anything that matters becomes a target. Luca told me. Then you understand why I'm asking you to stop coming. For your safety. For Luna's safety. He stopped, his jaw working. For my mother's peace of mind. If something happened to you because of us, it would destroy her. And you. The question slipped out before Camille could stop it. Would it destroy you? His dark eyes met hers, and the intensity there made her breath catch. Yes. The single word hung between them, heavy with admission. I'm not asking you to cut all contact, he continued. I'm asking you to step back. Let things calm down. My people are handling the threat, but it takes time. A few months, maybe. Then, if you want, you could come back. Your mother needs me now. Not in a few months. My mother needs you alive. His hand moved across the table, stopping just short of touching hers. Camille, I've spent my entire adult life making impossible calculations, weighing risks, making choices where every option costs something. But this is the first time I've had to calculate the cost of something He stopped himself. Someone I care about being hurt because of me. You care about me, not a question. More than is wise. More than I should, his voice was rough. Which is exactly why you need to stay away. Camille stared at him. This dangerous, complicated man who'd learned to sign for his mother, who wept when the weight of his choices became too heavy, who is now trying to protect her by pushing her away. What if I don't want to stay away? Then you're not as smart as I thought you were, but there was no humor in his voice, only pain. Maybe I'm not. She reached across the table and took his hand, the same hand that had killed 2 men a week ago, the same hand that signed with increasing tenderness to his mother. Maybe caring about people means accepting risks. Maybe that's what makes us human instead of just surviving. In my world, caring about people gets them killed. Then maybe your world needs to change. He looked at their joined hands like they were both salvation and damnation. I can't change my world, but I can keep you out of it. What if I'm already in it? Then I'll drag you back out, even if you hate me for it. Before she could respond, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression darkened. What is it? Security alert. Someone tried to approach your building an hour ago. He's been detained, but he stood abruptly. I'm having you and Luna moved. Tonight. Somewhere safe until this is resolved. You can't just... Yes, I can. His voice was hard now. The dangerous man fully present. You can fight me on this, or you can trust that I know how to keep people alive in situations like this. Your choice. Camille stood too, anger and fear warring inside her. I don't want your protection if it means never seeing you or Rosa again. Then you're asking me to choose between your safety and your happiness. His eyes were anguished. That's not a choice, Camille. Your safety wins. Every time. He left cash on the table and walked out, leaving her standing there with cold espresso and a heart that felt like it was breaking. Because she'd finally understood what Rosa had been trying to tell her all along. Loving someone in Matteo's world meant accepting that sometimes love meant letting go. Even when it destroyed you both. The safe house turned out to be a luxury apartment in a high-security building downtown, fully furnished and staffed with 2 guards who introduced themselves as Marco and Sofia. They were professional, polite and completely inflexible about Camille and Luna leaving without approval. Luna thought it was an adventure at first. Mama, this place is a pool. And look, the TV is huge. But by day 3, the novelty had worn off. When can we go home? I miss my room. I miss Mrs. Patterson. Soon, baby.
Soon.
Except Camille didn't know if that was true. She'd received only one message from Rosa, delivered by Marco on their second day, a handwritten note that said simply, "My son thinks he's protecting you. Please don't hate him for it. And please don't forget us." No messages from Mateo. Nothing. Just silence and guards and the suffocating feeling of being a bird in a gilded cage. On day 7, Camille snapped. "I need to go to work," she told Marco. "I've used up all my personal days. If I don't go back, I'll lose my job. Mr. Marchesi has arranged for your salary to be. I don't want his money. I want my life back." Marco's expression was sympathetic but firm. 2 more days. Mr. Marchesi's people are close to resolving the situation. Then you can return to normal. Normal. Camille laughed bitterly. Nothing about this is normal. He doesn't get to just lock me away like I'm...
She stopped.
Like I'm what? His to protect? His responsibility. His. That night, Luna was asleep when Camille's phone buzzed with an unknown number. Her heart leaped. Maybe Mateo finally. But the text made her blood run cold. "Does your daughter know her mother visits criminals? Shame what could happen to a pretty little girl with no protection. Stop seeing the Marchesis or find out." Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the phone. She showed Marco, who immediately made calls, his face grim. Within 20 minutes, security had doubled and Mateo arrived in person. He swept into the apartment like a storm, fury and fear in equal measure. His eyes found Camille's immediately. "Are you both safe?"
Luna?
"She's sleeping." She doesn't know Camille's voice was surprisingly steady despite her racing heart. "How did they get my number?" "I don't know yet. But I will find out," he turned to Marco. "Full lockdown. No one in or out except me and Luca. Trace that number. I want a location in the next hour." Marco nodded and stepped away, phone already at his ear. Mateo turned back to Camille, and she saw something break in his carefully controlled expression.
"I'm sorry."
"God, Camille, I'm so sorry. I thought keeping you here would keep you safe, but I just made you a sitting target. This isn't your fault." "Of course it is." His hands moved in sharp, angry gestures, signing without realizing it. "Everything that's happening to you is because of me. Because I was selfish enough to want you in my life when I should have sent you away that first day at the airport. So what now?" Camille signed back, her own anger rising. "You've locked us in this beautiful prison. Someone is threatening my daughter, and you're drowning in guilt. What's your plan?" "My plan is to end this." Tonight, his signing became harder, more aggressive. "I'm going to find whoever sent that message and make sure they never threaten you again." "By doing what? Becoming more of the monster you hate being?" He flinched as if she'd struck him. "If that's what it takes to keep you and Luna safe, yes." "That's not what I want." "I don't care what you want. I care that you're alive." His hands were shaking now, his face twisted with emotion. "Don't you understand? I've lost everything that mattered to me, my father, my innocence, any chance at a normal life. My mother is the only good thing I have left, and then you walked into my world, and suddenly I had 2 things worth protecting. 2 people who make me remember I'm human. And if I have to become a complete monster to keep you both safe, then that's what I'll do." The raw vulnerability in his signing, the admission buried in his anger, stopped Camille cold. "You care about me," she signed slowly. "Really care. Not just as your mother's friend." Mateo's hands dropped. He looked away. "Does it matter?" "Yes," she moved closer. "It matters because I care about you too. And not because you're charming or safe or appropriate. But because I've watched you fight to feel again. Because you built a crooked treehouse and wanted to be an astronaut. Because you love your mother enough to learn a whole language just to keep talking to her." "Camille." I'm not finished. She was signing now too, their shared language making it easier to be honest.
I'm terrified.
For Luna, for myself, for what this means. But I'm more terrified of you pushing me away and losing whatever this is between us without ever knowing what it could have been. What it could have been is you getting hurt. Or it could have been something beautiful. She reached up and touched his face, the first time she'd touched him beyond holding his hands. You said you're tired of being the monster. Then don't be.
Not with me.
Not tonight. For a long moment, they stood there, her hand on his face, his eyes searching hers for something he seemed afraid to find. Then slowly, carefully, he covered her hand with his. I don't know how to do this. How to care about someone without destroying them. Neither do I. But maybe we figure it out together. This is a terrible idea, he whispered. Probably the worst. You should run as far from me as possible. I know. But you're not going to. No, she smiled, small and scared and determined. I'm not. He leaned his forehead against hers, his eyes closing. I'll keep you safe. Whatever it takes, I'll keep you both safe. I know you will. And when this is over, when the threat is gone, if you want to walk away, I'll let you.
No arguments.
What if I don't want to walk away? He pulled back to look at her, something like hope flickering in his dark eyes. Then I'll spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. She didn't know who moved first. Maybe both of them. But suddenly his lips were on hers, gentle and desperate at once, and she was kissing him back, pouring all her fear and hope and impossible feelings into this one perfect, terrible moment. When they finally pulled apart, Matteo touched his forehead to hers again. I need to go handle this, but I'm coming back. And then we're going to figure this out. All of it. Promise. Promise. He kissed her once more, then left, his security team closing ranks around him. Camille stood alone in the quiet apartment and realized something. She'd fallen in love with a man who lived in darkness. But maybe, just maybe, she could be the light that helped him find his way home. 3 weeks later, Camille stood in Rosa's suite, sunlight streaming through the windows she'd come to know so well. The threat had been eliminated. Matteo had been characteristically vague about details, and Camille had decided she didn't need to know. What mattered was that Luna was safe, they were home, and the shadows that had followed them were gone. But the sessions had remained suspended. Matteo had insisted on waiting until everything was truly settled, until he was certain there would be no retaliation, no lingering danger. Today was their first session back. Rosa couldn't stop touching Camille's face, her hands, reassuring herself that Camille was real and safe. I thought I'd lost you. Both of you, you and my son. He was so far gone during those weeks. So cold. I watched him disappear again. But I'm here now, Camille signed. And so is he. As if summoned, Matteo appeared in the doorway. He looked different, still serious, still carrying that aura of controlled power, but something had softened. His eyes went to Camille immediately, and the warmth there made her heart skip. Hello, he signed, and even that simple word carried more emotion than it had months ago. Hello, she signed back, smiling. Rosa looked between them, and her face broke into a knowing grin.
Oh.
When did this? How did I miss? Matteo's ears turned red.
Mama.
Don't you mama me. You think your mother is blind? Rosa was signing so fast with excitement that her hands blurred. How long has this been happening? 3 weeks, Camille admitted. Since the night of the threat. But we wanted to wait until things were stable before telling me that my son finally found someone worth fighting his demons for. Rosa pulled them both into a fierce hug, laughing silently. This is the best news.
The best.
My stubborn, broken son finally letting himself love someone. Mama, we're taking it slow, Matteo protested. Slow? Rosa released them and signed with exaggerated disbelief. You're 40 years old. I want grandchildren before I'm 80. Matteo looked mortified. Camille laughed out loud. You already have a grandchild, she signed. Luna wants to meet you. If that's okay. Rosa's hands flew to her heart. You would let me meet her? Truly. She asks about you constantly. About the nice lady mama visits, she made you a drawing of a dinosaur. Rosa's eyes filled with happy tears. I would love nothing more. They settled into their usual spots, but the dynamic had shifted. There was ease now, comfort. Mateo sat closer to Camille than before, their shoulders occasionally brushing.
So, Camille signed.
Let's see what you remember. Rosa, tell Mateo about your week. Rosa's hands moved with her characteristic expressiveness. I finished my embroidery. I read 3 books. I terrorized my son by repeatedly asking when he's going to make an honest woman of you.
Mga.
Mateo's signing was sharp with embarrassment, but his face was smiling. Really, genuinely smiling.
What?
I'm old. I'm allowed to be pushy. Rosa turned to Camille conspiratorially. He's been different these past weeks. Lighter. He smiles at his phone when he thinks I'm not looking. Rosa, Camille started. Don't Rosa me. I'm right. My son is in love, and it shows. Mateo's hands moved slowly, deliberately, his eyes on Camille. Yes, I am. The simple admission, signed with his whole heart, made Camille's breath catch. And you? Rosa signed to Camille. How do you feel about my impossible son? Camille looked at Mateo, this complicated, dangerous, tender man who'd learned to sign for his mother, who'd protected her and Luna at great cost, who was still learning to feel after years of numbness. I love him, she signed, even though it's terrifying and complicated and probably crazy. The best love usually is. Rosa signed wisely. Your father and I, we were impossible too. But we made it work because we chose each other every day, even when it was hard. Mateo reached across and took Camille's hand. I'm still learning how to do this. How to be someone who can love without destroying. I'll make mistakes. We both will. Camille signed with her free hand. But we'll figure out together. Rosa watched them, her expression soft with joy. This is what I wanted. Not perfect signing. Not flawless technique. This, 2 people who care about each other, communicating with their whole hearts. You knew. Mateo signed to his mother. Didn't you? That bringing Camille here would change everything. I hoped, Rosa admitted. I saw something in her at that airport.
Kindness, yes.
But also strength. The kind of strength you needed. Someone who could see the man you really are beneath all the armor. She sees too much. Mateo signed, but he was smiling. I see exactly enough. Camille signed back. They spent the rest of the afternoon signing, not exercises or lessons, but real conversation. Stories and jokes and plans. Rosa talked about wanting to teach Luna to embroider. Mateo mentioned he'd found his old telescope in storage and wondered if Luna might like it. As the session ended, Mateo signed something to Camille, his movements slow and deliberate, full of the emotional fluency they'd worked so hard to build. Thank you for giving me my mother back. For giving me myself back. For teaching me that feeling isn't weakness. It's the only thing that makes surviving worth it. Camilla's eyes filled with tears. Thank you for letting me in. For trusting me with your heart. Rosa watched them with her hand over her own heart, tears of joy streaming down her face. They weren't perfect. Mateo still had his dark world, his dangerous business, his complicated past. Camille still had her modest apartment, her hospital shifts, her beautiful daughter to protect. But they had this. Thursday afternoons in a warm suite filled with love. A shared language that went beyond words. And the promise of something neither had thought possible, a future built not on perfection, but on choosing each other, imperfections and all, every single day. As Luca drove Camille home that evening, she thought about the elderly woman at the airport who'd needed help. How one moment of kindness had unraveled into something she never could have imagined. Sometimes love arrived not with fanfare, but with a simple gesture, reaching out to someone who couldn't be heard and choosing to listen. And sometimes the most powerful language wasn't spoken at all. It was signed with trembling hands, seen with understanding eyes, and felt with hearts brave enough to stay open even when it hurt. Camille pulled out her phone and texted Mateo. Same time next week. His response came immediately, same time. Always. She smiled and looked out at the city lights, thinking about crooked treehouses and distant stars and the beautiful, terrifying adventure of loving someone brave enough to feel again. It was imperfect and complicated and absolutely worth it. Just like the best things always were. The end. Total word count, 12,000 words across 12 sections.